see, are joining both in person and virtually. And we are overjoyed to have more than 150 family and friends from across the world joining us for the celebration. To people who are here in person, you will have survived the COVID protocols to have gotten into the room. Thank you for wearing masks as you are seated here, and because we are all vaccinated, you can remove your masks. There is a limit on congregating in person in the room, but people who wish to do so can, after the ceremony, congregate outside on the patio just through those double doors. We really wanted as many of our family members to participate and honor Adelle today as is possible. And so we have family members here who will participate in the program, and family members who will participate today via Zoom, family and friends, from as far away as Spain, Scotland, New York, and Washington, D.C. If you direct your gaze to the monitor, you will see the presenters, and hopefully this format will not be too confusing. Bear with us for some technical difficulty as we go along here. At the end of the celebration, a server will pass a glass of champagne to those who are in the room so that we can toast our beloved Adelle. And to those joining us on the live stream, we really hope that you will also join us in the toast. So please be sure to have a glass on hand. After the toast, we will say farewell to our virtual friends and family. And the people who are here are invited to partake of a light luncheon, which will be available on the tables at the back of the room. And we hope that during this time, some of you who are here will come up to the podium and share some of your memories of Adelle. I think that's it with logistics, except for if your phone is on, as mine probably is, turn it off. I think that will be helpful. If I'm not forgetting anything, Kate, I don't believe I am, I would like to invite my wife, Adelle, and Jose's third daughter, Anna CASTELO, to come up and present her mother's eulogy.
Check, check. Thank you, Andrew. That was my husband, Andrew Foley. And I just want to point out, are the pictures of the Zoom people up? If they're not, if those pictures come up again, I just want to mention, I have, Andrew and I have 4 children who are in New York, and their faces are all there. My children, Nico, Maddie, Nora, and Aaron are on that screen. I wish they could be here in person. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the celebration of life of my mother, Adelle Ann CASTELO. My name is Anna, and as Andrew said, I'm the third of Adelle and Jose's 3 daughters. Today, it is my great honor to pay tribute to my mother, to celebrate her life, and to ask each of you to help us wish her well on her journey into the next. Adelle was a great lady, a great wife, a great mother, a great friend. She was the North Star to our family, and we are bereft without her. One can easily fall into despair with the loss of one so loved and so treasured as Adelle. But that isn't what she would want for us. Instead, she would ask us to have faith that she is watching over us. And I tell you, what she wants to see from heaven is all of us enjoying life, seizing each day and living it to the fullest, as she did. I want to thank God for Adelle's life, for gracing us with her magnificent spirit for so long, and for releasing her finally from pain. And I want to pray for her eternal peace and joy in the sweet hereafter. Now it's time to celebrate her life. There's a lot to celebrate because, as one might expect, Mom's life is a pretty good story. Born November 29th, 1933, in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Adelle was raised in Peterborough, Ontario, by her sweet mother, Catherine, her trailblazing older sisters, Winona, a doctor, and Lida, an artist, her doting sister, Alma, and of course by her brilliant father, Demetrius. Adelle's little brother, Donald, was born when she was 9, and baby sister, Kathy, when she was 11. It was a busy household, to put it mildly. Some combination of these family circumstances worked to produce in Adelle an uncommonly independent, strong-willed, and adventurous spirit. At age 16, she left her home in Peterborough for the University of Toronto, where she worked hard to pay her own way. In 1954, at age 20, Adelle graduated from St. Michael's College at U of T with a bachelor's in English literature. Working? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Working odd jobs in the year that followed, she planned her European grand tour. In the days when unmarried young women rarely traveled unchaperoned, let alone graduated from university. So it was that in 1955, Adelle sailed across the Atlantic in a cargo ship with a friend and set herself up to live in London, England, supporting herself first as a button girl at Selfridges, then as an au pair, and finally writing articles for an English magazine called The Diplomat. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Adelle, a handsome young man from Madrid was at this very time taking his own 6-month sojourn in London, living mere blocks from her boarding house in Earl's Court and frequenting the same neighborhood restaurant. But they did not meet, not just yet. It seems their stars were still aligning. After a year working in London, Adelle had saved enough to travel to the continent, spending several months in Italy, Switzerland, and France before ending up in Madrid, Spain, where she taught English at the Berlitz School. It was here in 1957 that the fates conspired to bring Adelle and Jose together at last. As legend has it, the hip young madrileño was seated at the rear of Adelle's classroom on the first day of business English, when he decided to light up a cigarette. Without a trace of irony, Adelle curtly informed the young man that smoking was not allowed in her class. Upon receiving this reprimand from the tall, green-eyed gringa, Jose Luis was hit hard by the proverbial thunderbolt. His mouth dropped open, cigarette falling to the floor. Their stars had finally aligned. And the rest, as they say, is history. Adelle and Jose were married on July 21st, 1959, in Madrid, and lived happily ever after. This past summer, they celebrated 62 years of wedded bliss. To commemorate the occasion, my sister Kate and I had a pair of binary stars named after our parents. These stars are located in Orion's belt, and according to NASA, will orbit one another through perpetuity. A fitting expression, I think, of Adelle and Jose's eternal love, which truly was written in the stars. Back to the story. After their first year of marriage in Madrid, Adelle and Jose moved to Toronto, where they started their family. First came their eldest daughter, Kate. 2 years later, Marisa was born, and 2 years after that, yours truly rounded out the family.
Adele and Jose now had a perfect package of 3 little girls. And we 3 sisters, well, as I always say, we won the parent lottery. Our family lived happily in Toronto for many years, enjoying close proximity to our grandmother Catherine and to our amazing cousins, the Coppings and the Lewises, of whom I have 2 of my dear cousins here today, Mary Copping and David Lewis. Now I've lost my spot. We were also surrounded by an incredibly close-knit circle of truly beloved family friends, many of whom are attending this ceremony today in person and virtually. I'm not going to start naming names. You know who you are. We love you, and we always have. Largely because of that family circle, Toronto would be Adele and Jose's cherished home base off and on for the next 36 years, until their final move to Vancouver in 1996. Vancouver spelt a new chapter for Adele and Jose, an active retirement, grandparenthood, and a new family base close to their daughters Marisa and Kate and their families, and to Mom's sister Wynn and her family. Adele and Jose enjoyed 25 years together in this spectacular city, adopting it as their own, making new friends, and engaging in new hobbies. While Jose was a member of the False Creek Seniors Dragon Boat team, Adele joined the Brockhouse Seniors Club. There, she was a very active member of the writers group, contributing countless stories to the monthly Brockhouse Journal, of which she later became an editor. The Yayos, as we call my parents, that's grandparents in Spanish, the Yayos have been the rock of the Vancouver crew, offering kinship to their friends and loved ones here, helping to raise their grandsons, and providing their magical elixir of care, comfort, and joy to those in their circle. While grateful for such a long retirement together and for the beauty of their surroundings, Adele and Jose have not been without their share of heartache, illness, and pain in recent years, most notably suffering the tragic and untimely loss of their beautiful daughter Marisa in 2012. Sometimes, as Kate recently pointed out, it seemed as if, Job-like, they were being tested by God. And yet, they always rose to these challenges with grace and love. Let me return us to a more celebratory mood. As you may have gathered, a huge part of Mom's essence was her exceptional marriage to Jose. The two shared a mutual respect, a joie de vivre, and a devotion to one another that made their life together sparkle. Theirs was a romance for the ages, but it was also an equal and balanced partnership built to last. If you want to model for a happy, lifelong marriage, this was it. A sparkling couple, 2 peas in a pod, and yet complete individuals who truly allowed each other space and freedom to pursue their different interests. Of course, as their daughter, I am biased, and I carry that bias to my perceptions of Adele as a mother. She was no ordinary mother. She was creative, passionate, funny, and fun. Among my mother's gifts to us was her storytelling, along with her gift for the gab. She taught us how to speak, how to put together a good sentence, steeping us in nursery rhymes, regaling us with her stories at the dinner table, debating with us. She wanted us all to be artists. She did crafts with us, sang with us, danced with us. Growing up at 220 Deloraine Avenue in Toronto felt like a party. We were always surrounded by friends, laughter, music, dance, good food, and good wine. Our home was so warm and happy, I think it was almost an impediment to me and my sisters because it made it so very hard to leave the nest. When we were kids, our mom worked. She was a great role model in that regard. For many years, she was an adoption social worker at the Catholic Children's Aid Society and later a child custody advisor for the Official Guardian in Toronto. I was proud of my working mom. I remember her as a beautiful, professional, and competent woman, unlike any of the other mothers I knew, and I liked that. There are so many aspects of Adele that made her a unique character. Some might say a force of nature. As we all know, words were important to Adelle. She was a scribbler, a true writer. She couldn't not write, it was a compulsion. Throughout my life, I have visions of Mom typing away for hours while puffing on her beloved Marlboros. And I am proud to report that over her lifetime, she produced 4 novels, along with innumerable short stories and essays. You will be treated to a couple of excerpts later in today's program. As many of you well know, Adelle carried her artistry into the kitchen and loved to share a good meal with family and friends. Adelle and Jose were a great culinary team and have passed their passion for cooking to their children and grandchildren, amongst whom there are several accomplished and budding chefs. I find it poignant that one of Mom's all-time favorite movies, and the last one she watched this summer, was Babette's Feast, a Danish drama that focuses almost entirely on the preparation and consumption of a single epic French meal. Adelle was an adoring yaya to 8. Noah and Aiden, Diego and Pablo, Nico, Maddie, Nora, and Aaron. As a grandmother, Yaya was fun and stimulating. Sorry, get choked up. She taught them chess, decorated Easter eggs and Christmas cookies with them, joked with them, giggled with them, made up silly songs about them, and told them stories. And of course, she cooked elaborate meals for them well into her 80s. As my nephew Diego recently remarked to me with a wry grin, the dinners, the dinners. Yaya felt very blessed by each and every one of her grandchildren. She was uniquely proud of each one and their particular talents and pursuits. While she couldn't always be with them physically, she took great joy in hearing of their accomplishments. They were quite literally the light of her life. To the grandchildren of Yaya, you were so loved and admired, and as Yaya knows, that love is more than reciprocated. Her love endures. I can't talk about Mom's life without mentioning the adventures she shared with Jose Luis in Latin America. These travels provided fodder for the writings that she took up with great gusto after she returned to Canada. Dad's job took our family to Panama in 1975. We spent 3 years there, enjoying the pristine beaches and ocean life with the wonderful expat families we met there, again, some of whom are with us today in person and virtually. But it wasn't all fun and games in paradise. Mom spent her days volunteering in the shanty towns of Panama City, ministering to the poor. On one family vacation, she and Dad took us to work at an orphanage in Costa Rica. On another, our parents rushed to assist with earthquake relief in Santiago, Chile. In 1982, Dad got another international posting, this time to Argentina for 4 years. Buenos Aires was a complex and fascinating city, and our parents lived there during a momentous period in Argentine history, arriving in the aftermath of the Dirty War and just as the Falkland Crisis erupted. Adelle and Jose formed many important friendships in Buenos Aires, the circumstances causing them to bond quickly with fellow expats, again, some of whom are here today with us in person and abroad, and with many kindred Argentine friends as well. The impact of those 4 years on Adelle and Jose was intense. For Mom, these life-changing experiences took expression in her novel, Tango on a Tightrope, which I hope you'll get a chance to read, and we do have copies. Someone wants one. More recently and incredibly, given her major stroke in March 2020, Adelle completed her final novel, My Spanish Sister, in December of last year. Mom was determined to get the book into final form, knowing it would be her last. While the novel is a work of fiction, it is very much rooted in my mother's own experience of Spain in the 1950s. Apart from its gorgeous depictions of Madrid and its vivid character studies, this novel reminds me of the importance of Spain to Adelle's formation. With it, she left a real gift to our family, a precious clue to who she is. If you miss Adelle, please read this book. Her voice echoes clearly from every page. In closing, I want to bring up one important aspect of our upbringing with my mom and dad. Kate, Misa, my sister Marisa, and I were lucky to have been given a spiritual education by our parents at a church in Toronto called Newman Chapel. It was a uniquely liberal church. It was actually at the University of Toronto on campus back in the 1960s and 70s. This was our true home, the focus of our family life. Kate and I are grateful to have been part of this moment at Newman. It was a real faith community. A place not of doctrine, but of love. That background is part of what informs our deep faith that Mom's soul lives on, that she has not ceased to exist, but rather that her spirit has entered the realm of peace and perfection to be with God. Today we are here to usher her soul into that next life. Let's celebrate her transition from this world to the next, where it comforts me to think she has been welcomed into the loving arms of her parents, her siblings, and her beloved daughter, Marisa. Please join me in a moment of silence to reflect on Adelle's blessed 87 years and her passage into heaven. Let's reflect. Thank you, and amen.
Thank you, Anna. We now will hear from Laura, Sarah, and Taya Young, extraordinarily dear and long-standing friends of the CASTELO family, zooming in from Edinburgh and performing Bright Morning Star.
Can you,
Assuming the Zoom works.
Gone to heaven shouting, soul. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is a breaking in my soul.
Thank you, Laura, Sarah, and Taya. It's really beautiful. We'll now hear from Madeline Foley, my second child, Anna and my second child, and eldest daughter, who will be reading to us from Paul. Oh, and we're seeing both Madeline and Eric. We're not hearing them yet, we're seeing them.
If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails, but where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there is knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when completeness comes, what is in part disappears. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. We'll now hear from Noah CASTELO, Adele and Jose's eldest grandchild, reading a novel, Beginning, by Adelle CASTELO.
My life has held many journeys. I have arrived and departed many times. Arrivals intoxicate, departures inevitably wrench the heart. Each country I have lived in has etched its mark indelibly upon me, reached me in ways I can scarcely understand. Each has precipitated a different stage of being, a new beginning. One day I faced what I had long since known. I had to write a novel. The inner process had begun. It took some time to gather courage and creative energy. At length, I seated myself before the computer's bright blank screen. I closed my eyes and sat there motionless. Almost unconsciously, my fingers reached out to the keys. When I looked up, I was surprised to see a flow of words across the screen. The sentences danced slowly into pages, and I was flying high. My latest journey, wherever it might take me, was underway.
Thank you, Noah. We will now hear from Anna and my second daughter. Forgot to mention, coming to us from Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. Nora Foley reading a letter that, maybe excerpts from a letter that she wrote to Adele.
She knows she's.
Tell her she's on mute. She got to mute herself.
Yeah.
Nora, you're on mute. You're on mute, honey. Nora.
Nora.
Stop it.
Nora, you're on mute.
Hi everyone, apologies for that. This is a letter that I wrote to Yaya over this past summer and I wanted to share it with you all today. Dear Yaya, I wanted to write how much I love you and how much you mean to me. I admire you so deeply for so many reasons. First, for your marriage. I have truly never witnessed two people more in love than you and Yaya. You are so lucky to have found each other and a love that will last forever. Yaya worships the ground you walk on and holds a tremendous amount of respect for you. I never get bored of hearing your love story because it is truly out of the movies, only better because it is real. Secondly, I admire your career and intelligence. You are a kick-ass working mom who raised 3 beautiful daughters while working as a social worker and writer. The courage and sacrifice it takes to have a career and be a mom is something I really look up to. I plan to do both one day, and knowing that you are able to will give me the strength to keep going when things get hard. Thirdly, I admire your spirit for adventure. I have always loved hearing your travel stories, from when you went abroad in Europe in your 20s, to living in Panama and Argentina, and traveling through Latin America. You were able to befriend so many different types of people in your life. You really did see the whole world. You truly are fearless. And when I go abroad next year, I will channel your curiosity and openness to all. Finally, I admire the love you have created for us all. You and Yayo created such a loving and happy family that has trickled down to every one of your children and grandchildren. This past year during the pandemic, I have spent a significant time with my siblings at home. And while it was difficult at times, it made me grateful to have the quality time with my family members who I love so much. And I thought to myself, Yaya created this love. By loving Yayo and loving my mom and all of us, you have made us all full of love to give. Thank you for that. I also wanted to thank you for raising my mom. She's been an incredible mother to us and has so much love and admiration for you, just like I do. I know how hard it was for her to live so far from you and Yayo, but she always kept your traditions, spirit, and love for life close to her and spread it to her children. When I think of my Yaya, I think of stylish outfits, witty humor, enchanting short stories, gourmet food, the SS Independence, telling Yayo to put out his cigarette, Granville Island, bird decorations, and 3 beautiful daughters, strong, independent women, and a wonderful life. You are such an amazing role model to me, and I can only hope to see as many places, have as many friends, have a love as great, a career as fulfilling, and a family as happy as you did. Thank you for writing the Tell Laura I Love Her song. I remember when I was sad or angry with my mom, you and Yana would sing it to me, and it never failed to cheer me up. When things get tough, I will think of you singing it to me and smile. I'm sending all of the love, hugs, and besos in the world. Thank you for being a wonderful sister, wife, love.
Thank you, Nora. So we'll now hear a little more music. Diego Castelo Corey and Castelo family friend and godfather to Diego, John Payne, will be singing Girl from the North Country. You've heard Dylan and Cash do it, but you have not heard anything as good as this. And Pablo, you're not in.
Nah,
Not yet. Okay.
working on the voice.
Okay.
Everyone can do it. Come on.
If you're traveling the North Country Fair, the winds hit heavy, the borderline, remember me, one living there. She once was a true love of mine. And see for me, the hair's hanging down, the curls and flows on down her breast. You see for me that her hair's hanging down. That's the way I remember her best. If you're going, the snowflakes fly, the rivers freeze, the summer's end. Please see for me, she's wearing a coat so warm to keep her from the howling wind. And if you're going the North Country Fair, the winds hit heavy on the borderline, please say hello to one who lives there. She once was a true love of mine.
Awesome. I told you, better than Dylan and Kat. We are now via Zoom from Madrid, Spain, going to hear some remarks from Adelle Suarez Castelo on behalf of the Castelo family in Spain. I do think, but for Adelle, Jose would not have been released from Spain. So in that respect, it is a tribute to Adelle as well. But Adelle, over to you.
He's going to speak in Spanish, and I forgot to translate.
Please unmute Adelle.
Oh dear. Pon el sonido, Adelle.
Thank you, Andrew. Let's go with some memories in Spanish of our beloved Adela. Las huellas de los que caminan juntos en la vida nunca se borran. Con esta bonita frase de nuestro querido Puchos, Antonio Castelo padre, queremos empezar a recordar la maravillosa vida de nuestra querida tía Adela, la vikinga. La llamamos así porque le encantaban las historias, cuentos y leyendas, como la de los cazadores de ballenas que habitaban el Luaca cuando llegaron los vikingos. La tía Adela siempre ha sido una gran contadora de historias. De pequeños, toda la prole de sobrinos nos quedábamos con la boca abierta, contándonos las aventuras que había vivido en tantos países, fantasmas que tocaban el cello en Argentina, arañas gigantes en Panamá, aventuras fascinantes en México lindo, siempre, como dice la canción, con esa voz de rayo de luna que forma parte ya de la banda sonora de nuestra infancia. Imagino el día que le presentaron a todos los castelos, los padres, Antonia y Luisa, Javier el Napi, Antonio el Puchero, Manolín el Piojo Verde y Marisa la Niña Yeye. Vaya ensalada de nombres y apodos. Luego vendrían 3 entrañables cuñadas y el cuñado vikingo. Encarnita la mayor, Encarnita la pequeña y Tinorra. Las imagino hoy a todas en algún lugar con el tío Manolo, quizás de excursión buscando restos arqueológicos, si es que hay de eso en el cielo. ¿Y qué decir de la prole de sobrinos, que presumían de familia al otro lado del océano? Desde el mayor al más pequeño han tenido devoción por su familia canadiense y por nuestra querida tía. Todos hemos inculcado también a nuestros hijos el cariño a esta gran familia. Pero la tía Adela además ha sido para los que por aquí estamos una anfitriona fantástica. Primero con tu cuñada Marisa, que pudo convivir contigo ese año que se fue a Canadá para aprender vuestro idioma. Ella recuerda con mucho cariño el día que aterrizó en Toronto y allí la estabais esperando con vuestras 3 maravillosas hijas. Para mi madre fuiste también amiga y hermana durante ese fantástico año. Aquí la abuela Luisa temía que no quisiera volver y que construyera su propio cuento allí en Toronto, pero al final volvió y se casó con su vikingo. También fuiste madre con Blanquita en su verano canadiense, a la que regañabas porque no apreciaba las buenas langostas que se comían por allí. La verdad, tía, es que yo también le habría dado un capón. Y un montón de viajes inolvidables en los que habéis sido unos anfitriones fantásticos para conocer ese país tan bonito y esas montañas rocosas tan espectaculares, haciendo de cada encuentro, de cada viaje, algo muy especial. Hoy, Vikinga, queremos ser nosotros los que te contemos una historia. Es una fábula que parece que está escrita para vosotros, Adela y Pichi, y dice así. Cuenta Ovidio que Júpiter, cansado del néctar y la ambrosía del Olimpo, y un poco harto tal vez de escuchar a todas horas la lira de Orfeo, decidió darse un paseo por la tierra. Así que tomó la apariencia de un joven vagabundo y fue pidiendo asilo en todas las casas que iba encontrando, sin mucho éxito, la verdad. Al final llegó a una choza, la más humilde de las que había encontrado, era de una pareja de edad avanzada. Ellos compartieron con aquel vagabundo, que no sabían que era un dios, claro, lo poco que tenían, una col, unos rábanos, un poco de pan. Al final Júpiter les dijo quién era y que en recompensa por la generosidad que habían tenido con un pobre desconocido les concedería todo cuanto quisieran. La petición de la pareja, ¿sabes cuál fue? No permitas que ninguno de los dos quede solo ni un día. Concédenos morir juntos. Pasaron unos años y un día que la pareja ya muy ancianos estaban recordando su maravillosa vida y el amor que siempre se habían tenido, cada uno se fue dando cuenta de que el otro se iba cubriendo de hojas. Apenas tuvo tiempo él de decirle adiós, querida compañera, y gracias por todo, porque nada más salir esas palabras de su boca, una corteza le recubrió para siempre. Pero ya estaban juntos para toda la eternidad, porque el roble y el pilo tenían un solo tronco. Como en esta historia, esta familia tiene ya un solo tronco, protegido por una corteza de recuerdos llenos de amor, en los que tú, Adela, estarás siempre. Te queremos, Adelita, os queremos, familia. Gracias.
Kate will provide an abbreviated translation.
Well, essentially, he was telling everybody about the wonderful adventures and the stories that my mother would tell when she went to Spain and entranced all the children and the cousins spiders in Panama, and there were ghosts that played the cello in Argentina, and the spectacular adventures of Mexico Lindo, which is how Mexico is known in the world.
And they called her La Vikinga.
Yes. My cousin Odon and his family is from the north of Spain, in a province called Asturias, which is next to Galicia, which is the Gaelic area where my father was born. And in Asturias, the Vikings came to the shores, and they're big people with blue eyes and fair skin. And his father, Odon Sr., was known as El Vikingo, the Viking. And the minute they met my mother, they said, "Oh, she's a Vikinga." And then he spoke about this myth about the oak and the linden tree and how they merged and became one and lived forever, and that the CASTELO family is part of that oak. And it was very beautifully said, and I'm not doing him justice. But that was
Thank you, Kate. We will now hear Diego Castelo Corey reading The Deleterious Effects of Literature by Adelle Castello.
You asked me to turn my phone off here.
Yeah.
This back up. I'm gonna have to give this a sec. Sorry, guys. Do you want to shuffle the order around quickly? This is gonna take us. Oh wait, maybe not.
You're too tall for me to be up there at the same time.
I know. All right. Arts in Our Lives. So, in a book published by the Brockhouse Writers in 2002 entitled Arts in Our Lives, Adele wrote about the deleterious effects of literature and made her introduction with the following remarks. Life without the arts is inconceivable. Just for as food sustains the body, so the arts, in all their splendid multiplicity of form, nourish and elevate the human spirit. Nonetheless, the arts are not without their perils. Literature, for instance, has held me in its fearsome power for years. Books have shifted my perceptions, shaken my beliefs, driven me to foreign exploration, and ultimately changed my life. Fine writing has also engendered in me the terrible and unending urge to write. That's well said. Well said, Adele.
Great, thank you, Diego. We will hear again from Laurie Young, who's going to make some remarks and play a tango for us.
Here again from Laurie Young, who's going to make some remarks and play a tango.
This is transatlantic.
I just want to share a very, very short story with you all. It occurred to me the other day that, can you hear me?
Yes.
Turn that off. Turn it down. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I played the small concert when I was very, very, very little for Adele and Jose. And after I played, Adele sat down next to me, and with her ferocious passion and her incredibly overwhelmingly beautiful voice, she took me right in the face and said, "You have to dedicate your life to music. You owe it to your talent." And while it was a little bit scary, it's definitely the reason that I'm sitting, well, one of the reasons, certainly one of the most important reasons why I'm sitting in front of you now, playing this tango for all of you and for Adele.
amazing. We'll now hear from Pablo Castello Corey reading poems of original composition to his grandmother.
Well, I'm happy I'm following up one of the world's literal best guitarists. I'm the comedic relief. I have a poem that I wrote to my grandmother. I'm just going to preface it. Is this thing on? Yeah. Okay. I think about how lucky I am to have had my grandmother in my life so close to me. She was there for me as a child and into manhood with love, joy, intelligence, and beauty. And she was always in good spirits with me and always a friend and a close confidant, even in her most painful moments. And if you know Yaya and you've been to her house, you know the big famous white chair. And I would sit down and we'd pour a glass of Pinot Grigio. And I'd say, Yaya, how are you today? And she'd always say, oh, I'm fine, dear. And she'd give me a cheeky grin. And we both knew when things were not fine. And we both knew that you have to love and laugh and sing and dance away the darkness. And we all knew how stubborn she was. And she did that. How she fought against her pain with a quick-witted remark and a dinner and a drink and with friends and family and love. In the rooms, we'll come and go, and we'll be speaking of Yaya, Adelle Castello. I formed a relationship with a woman who was strong, who loved and was loved, and who wanted to laugh in the face of death. And I was lucky enough to be with her in her final days and hold her hands and help make her laugh. And she taught me how to be strong in the midst of pain. So I smiled and wrote her a poem to make her smile. And I held her hand, that's all we could do, and I thought of this poem. What a dark preface, but this is called Mac and Cheese and Easter Eggs. Going to Yaya's apartment for lunch, it's mac and cheese. Gummies in the glove compartment, driving such a tease. It's Easter and there's eggs to paint amongst an April breeze. I'm eating all the pickles up, I do it with such ease. Cousins on the couch debate and cause such a commotion. A patio reprieve I take and overlook their ocean. Lunch is served, oh goodness me. I shout and then I roar. Yaya's famous mac and cheese. We're coming back for more. Seconds are had, then we watch TV in the den. A cooking show or house hunters. Mind you, I'm only 10. I learn about T.S. Eliot and other famous men. He's Yaya's favorite writer, the best of them, she says. Saturdays spent with family, who are also my friends. It's true. To Easter eggs and mac and cheese. To Yaya, we love you.
Thank you, Pablo. We will hear from Laura, Sarah, and Taya Young, again, zooming to us from Edinburgh.
Nico should say something.
Oh, and they're
So
performing.
this is a song that everybody knows, and we're hoping that you will join us. We'll sing it through a few times, and the strong singers on your end, we hope very much you'll sing up indeed. And Dennis, you know it means you. And there are other strong singers. So we'll do our part from Scotland. Here we go. By the waters of Babylon, we lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. By the waters thee, Zion, by the waters of Babylon. We lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. Everyone. By the waters of Babylon. We lay down and wept for thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion. We remember thee, Zion.
Kudos, everybody. Before our toast to Adele, Noah CASTELO will present some tributes that have been submitted to the family.
So the first one is from Candido and Anne Christian in Spain. At the age when memory drawers are full, my brain has discarded the trivial, boring, and disagreeable. Yet precious moments and formidable persons have their own drawers, which are often open. Adele occupies one drawer, which only bears the label wholesome. It is a password to the dictionary which reads, conducive to or characterized by moral well-being, with synonyms moral, ethical, good, nice, clean, virtuous, pure, innocent. That for me spells Adele. We remember her imparting such feelings in a very direct and enthusiastic style. We can hear her defending with passion such principles, often in her amusing accented Spanish, and with that unmistakable profound voice. She made us believe in Christianity far more than most of the church prelates we have ever met. In a world torturous and cruel, Adele kept us hopeful that humanity is not lost. Canada holds a very high and most dear place in our family's hearts, and Adele was its best ambassadress, and la gran amiga canadiense, representante de todo lo mejor de un país y gente buena. For all that, thanks, Adele. The next one is from Elizabeth de Mongeau, who was Adele's college roommate, now living in California. When I say Adele's name, I always see her so clearly the way I knew her in college, and when after years of living too far apart to get together, we met again, Adele was just the same, and when I say that I smile because I love her. I had not met Adele until she became my college roommate. We were two very different persons in so many ways, but somehow, when we met each other, mostly only as roommates, we found many things to talk about, including literature and poetry. It has been too long ago to remember the content of so many conversations, but I do remember that she was always interesting and fun. We shared our stories. She was an excellent writer and knew how to express her feelings and thoughts so beautifully. I'm so glad that when we moved to Seattle, we saw each other again. I always thought that I would be able to see her again, and I still cannot believe that I won't, at least in this life, but she will always remain in my heart. The next one is from Adele's nephew, Greg Lewis, in Seoul, South Korea. Dear Aunt Adele, I miss you. I can imagine what you're thinking as I write that, and I can hear your beautiful, deep-throated chuckle as you say, how can you miss me, Greg? Well, I think you know part of the truth about why I will miss you. In our most recent conversation, I mentioned, as you turned your face in profile, that you reminded me of my mother, your sister Lita. You seemed pleased with the comment, despite the years and decades-long gaps in contact between you and I, and all the happy and sad events I've missed in the CASTELO family. We are family, and neither time nor distance can change that. I made an overseas call from my home in South Korea to your home in Vancouver on July 1st of this year. You were lying back, and your husband, my dear Uncle Jose, was holding the iPad just so. We chatted a little, and then I asked how you two met. Luckily, in 2009, I had the good fortune to spend some time with Kate in Mexico, and asked her the same question, so I suppose I just wanted to hear the story again. There were a few surprises. One delightful surprise was learning about the song you two shared more than 60 years ago that was an important part of who you became. The song, Love is a Many-Splendored Thing, you also recalled on the street where you live from My Fair Lady, but I think it was the first song that sealed the deal for you. You and Jose were married the year I was born in 1959, which is a lovely connection. And before you were married, during that year, your parents insisted you spend apart while still in Spain. You sat together drinking coffee in front of a cafe, practicing English, and being the beautiful young couple that you were, when a street photographer asked to take your photo. You both agreed, and now 62 years later, you have a snapshot in time from those precious days preserved. That photo is also a connection between us, as Rachel and I, on the day we met, had our photo taken by chance by a friend who now serves as a reminder of our precious first days. I'm so grateful and delighted for so many things connected to you, foremost being your daughter Catherine, because this is what I've always called her, Marisa, God bless her, and Anna Banana, and for bringing that handsome Spaniard to Canada, my Uncle Jose, and most recently, despite your discomfort, but forever the gracious host, for sharing a few memories in a too short, too long overdue chat. I'm looking forward to ruminating on the connections you helped me rediscover and keeping them alive and multiplying. All my love, Greg Lewis. This one is from Adele's niece, Margaret Hollis, who I think is in Oliver, British Columbia. This memory is about how Adele changed my world over 60 years ago. Adele introduced me to the idea that one's surroundings could be made beautiful, pleasurable, even thought-provoking, and that it was worth giving time and work to that purpose. I appreciate that Jose had a lot to deal with, but my earliest memories are of a household of fascinating furniture, art, and objects, even a wall with a fascinating texture, of powerful or delightful music, and of the most delicious food ever. I know for sure Jose had a lot to do with that delicious seafood, since he taught me to cook some of it. But to me, Adele was a real homemaker, someone who made an extraordinarily rich and pleasant home. She was, of course, a great deal more complex than that, but Adele was the person who brought art, music, aesthetics into my life, and very much into my parents' life, and I'll be forever grateful to her for that. Next one is from Patty Roberts. From our first meeting in Panama in 1975, Adele was a true friend. She was always perfectly dressed, whether for one of her famous dinner parties or a picnic on the beach. She managed to remain relatively unruffled at times of stress, and there were quite a few of those in our early days of Panama, and her calm demeanor was an example to those around her. Adele was always available to listen when I had a problem, and could usually be relied on to diminish the anxiety. She also loved to party and could dance the night away with the best. In later years, we lived apart from one another, but she was a good communicator, and a chat on the phone brought us close again. It is so very hard to accept that she has left us, but she remains in our hearts forever. And the last one is from Carol Hancock, who's a longtime family friend from Toronto. It is hard for me to relate a single memory about Adele because she, well, the entire Castello family, has been a continuum in our large Hancock family's life since I was 10 years old, like a beaded necklace with some beads close together and some farther apart, but always with a strong string of connection. We have been intertwined, no matter how distant our homes. My relationship with Adele has gone from an odd young girl's admiration for her young Marjorie Hancock's powerful, strikingly beautiful, raven-haired university friend, Adele Grostocki, who reappeared not long after with her handsome, velvet-voiced Spanish husband, Jose. And later there were the three young daughters, Catherine, as we knew Kate, Marisa, and Anna, just like me and my two sisters. There were the years of parties and special celebrations, and so much lively conversation and dancing at the home of my parents, Macklin and Grace, and most especially the magical times on Lake Kiosk. At the Wigwam, our family's beloved summer camp. So important was the Castello family to that place, despite their not having been there for many years. We still call one of our sleeping quarters the Castello tent, because that was where their family always stayed. The Adele I knew was strong, so intelligent, forthright, affectionate, caring, and so much more, a real life force. Over the last years, one of her, perhaps her greatest pleasures, was keeping me abreast of news about her beloved grandchildren and how important they were in her and Jose's lives, as they continue to be. At the same time, she always wanted to know about my immediate and large extended family. Her interest always went both ways. Adele was deeply compassionate. One of my most important memories of both her and Jose, always such a team, is when I was in Vancouver with my older daughter for several weddings. It was a period of deep personal anguish for both of our families, and a planned dinner was almost canceled as a result. But it did go ahead, and the opening of hearts, the sharing of anxieties, and the love extended, warmed by the gold evening light in a Kitsilano Beach restaurant, were deeply consoling and will never be forgotten. Adele really never changed, except the raven hair turned to a magnificent white. The last time we spoke, just weeks before she died, although her voice was a little hoarse, she sounded strong, full of ironic humor, and still interested in others. She will be deeply missed, most of all by her family, but also by the many, many people who loved her, our Hancock family among them.
Thank you, Noah. Before the toast, let me call Jose and Kate and Anna up.
Well,
I guess I'm standing here.
Adela, finally we go to the toast. This is not Pinot Grigio, but it's a drink that has cava. Cava is Spanish champagne, and we all know that you adore that too. So to you, to life, we toast to your life, which is my life. To you, Adela.
To Adela. Viva Adela. Viva Adela.
Viva. Okay, consider yourself.
We want to thank everybody for coming here today and remembering my mother, Adele. I think everybody here and Laura and my nieces and nephew up above and everybody across the world, la familia en España, gracias por venir.
Y compartir.
Y compartir, sí, las memorias tan dulces de mi madre. ¿Tú quieres decir algo?
Well, everything has been said. I'm speechless. I'm just having a heartache. So, excuse me.
Cheers.
No, I don't know. Let me see.
And special thank you to Laura and her daughters. I know they've been thanked already, but you might have noticed that the guitarist was astounding. And you may or may not know, she's literally possibly the greatest guitarist that ever came out of Canada. And we're so blessed to have had her here. To Laura, thank you, Laura. Ole, ole, Laura.
Y sus hijas tan bonitas.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you for celebrating Adele's life, which was quite a life. Thank you. I think that there would be something else.
I think we're done with the formal part of the program, but obviously folks should stay around. I think we'll release the guests on Zoom. There's a light luncheon, as mentioned, and there's going to be the opportunity for further sharing of reminiscence, but we'll break up the formal part of the presentation at this point.
Yeah. Love to everyone on Zoom and watching on live stream all across Canada, the United States, and Europe. Thank you for coming. Viva Adelle!
Viva Adelle. So I think if people would like to get some food, and you're welcome to take it to a table or there's this area outside. And then once we sit down, if people want to share their memories amongst us, we ask that you come up to the podium and share a story about mom. Well, recently.
Oh, man.
The rest of us?